So I think we already got more than 260 online participants. Very impressive number. Thank you for joining us. Now maybe we wait. No, I think we have all honorable guests. We have Ninki Buseman from European Commission, head of the unit. We have also Dr. Vincenzo Russo, EU policy officer, again from European Commission, DG RTD, EU for Rwanda and South Africa. We have also Anita from Department of Science, Technology and Innovation, South Africa. We have also let me open the program. I think that may be very easy. Yes, we have Miss Vini Pile, Chief Director, International Resource, the Department of Science and Technology Innovation. Thank you for joining us, our honorable guests and key presenters. We have, as already mentioned, now it's even increased to 276 online participants. Definitely this number will rise very shortly. So I think it's the time to start this National Horizon Europe Africa Initiative 4, focus on South Africa. The first speaker will be Miss Vini Pile. So I kindly invite Vini Pile to welcome our participants and provide introductory remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Satagi. Good afternoon, colleagues. Special greetings to Ninka Buseman from DG RCD, our colleagues at the EU delegation, EURAXESS, ESA-STEP, and of course everyone else that's joined us this afternoon. And thank you for showing interest. I think just by the sheer numbers that have joined us means there's an appetite for international collaboration and cooperation, and I'm very pleased about that. I think in the current environment that we operate in, we have shared challenges, whether it's climate change or energy or health, and I think there's an absolute increased need for international collaboration and ever so more science diplomacy, which has become integral parts of collaboration and cooperation to find solutions to our challenges. From the South African perspective, just a few words. As a national government department, we have science, technology, and innovation policy and a decadal plan that talks to our challenges, but also situates itself in the regional and continental framework, and of course, the global reach as well. So that talks to our national development plan, which talks to a vision for 2030. And increasingly so, we work very closely with partners, and our mantra currently is really about placing science, technology, and innovation at the center of government, education, industry, and society. So it's not just research for the sake of research, it's the impact that emanates from the collaboration and from the research and how that actually addresses our challenges. And I think that's quite important. As the DSTI in South Africa, we are very excited and we welcome the Africa Initiative number 4 under Horizon Europe. As many of you know, South Africa and the European Union share a long-standing and strategic partnership in science, technology, and innovation. And in fact, the cooperation was signed or is guided by the agreement since 1997. And we celebrate 30 years this year of this strategic partnerships. And many of you have probably already been involved in projects, have established networks in Europe, in South Africa and Africa. And that I think is part of what this partnership is about. It's a collective effort. And we value, of course, this collaboration. I think also for us, the initiative provides an important opportunity. So it's also building and deepening collaboration to ensure South African as well as African researchers and institutions are integrated into global knowledge networks. And I think we we acknowledge that no individual country has all the resources, whether it's intellectual or financial. And I think working together is absolutely critical in this regard. Of course, South Africa has a long shared history of collaboration through Horizon Europe programs, whether this has been around joint research programs, projects, mobility, etc. over the years, Marie Curie, many different types of initiatives and programs. Colleagues may also be aware we often engage in some of the co-funding initiatives, whether it's around the European Developing Clinical Trials Partnership. There's cost, too many to mention, and I'm sure many of you on this call have participated in several of these calls. But I think what the Africa Initiative also does, it provides an important milestone together in strengthening the partnership between Africa and Europe. It further advances the AU-EU innovation agenda, which lots of colleagues have been working on both sides of the world. And also the types of areas and priorities I think are important. Like I mentioned earlier, we have shared priorities, and many of the themes and priorities under the Africa Initiative, whether it's around public health, including pandemic preparedness, health systems, green transition, energy, climate resilience, etc., innovation, emerging technologies, building capacities for science, all of those are aligned not just to the South African national context, but also the objectives of the African Union, so embedded in Agenda 2063, and also finds its elements embedded in STISA 2034. So we are very happy to be here, to collaborate with you. The department for the South African National System of Innovation does provide support, whether it's through the national contact points, who are dedicated to assist through the ESA-STEP platform and seed funding. The colleagues on this call will also be able to assist you from the DSTI. So if you have any questions, we hope that this information session will result in lots of project proposals and collaboration, because it really is your opportunity for South Africa and Africa to provide leadership, intellectual capital into some of these international research challenges, but also deploying some of our young scientists. As a country, we want to support women, we want to support historically disadvantaged individuals, we want to build the national system of innovation in the country, in the region, and on the continent. So I'm hoping that you take away from this info session all that you can, ask the questions. We are here to support, and thank you again for making time. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ms. Vini Pillay, for wonderful opening remarks. We really appreciate that. Now I think let's move to the next speaker, our honorable guest of today's webinar. We have Ms. Ninki Buzman, Head of International Cooperation for Asia, Pacific, and Africa, as well as Middle East, from European Commission, DG Research and Innovation. We are always a pleasure to have you, Ninki, and also we appreciate your kind support. So the floor is yours, Ninki.
Yes, many thanks, Ivana. Very nice to be here this afternoon. Good afternoon to all, and very nice to see you again online, Vinny, as well. So on behalf of the European Commission and DG Research and Innovation, I also wish to welcome you all to this webinar. It's great to see so many people connected, and I agree there with Vinny that this really shows that there is appetite for a collaboration between researchers from the EU and South Africa. My greetings as well to my colleagues at the EU delegation in Pretoria, and of course, thank you to EURAXESS for organizing this, and all of the colleagues from the South African Department for Science and Innovation that are with us. Heard that the EU and South Africa partnership in science and technology is not new. We're celebrating 30 years of this bilateral S&T agreement, so it's great, and we're looking forward to connecting more regularly this year. Our collaboration, or the collaboration between researchers and innovators from both sides, they happen at the bilateral level, but they also happen at the multilateral level. Vinny already alluded to the 10-year African Union, European Union Innovation Agenda. Why am I underlining this from the beginning? Because this is a major policy document driving our cooperation, and that has set also the priorities for our collaboration at ministerial level. There are 5 priority areas: public health, green transition, innovation and technology, capacities for science, and some cross-cutting issues. It's important to notice and to have a look, because the Africa initiative that we are presenting today is really based on the priorities that we decided together in this as part of the innovation agenda, which really has as the aim to translate research results into products, services, businesses, and jobs in both Africa and in Europe. As part of this agenda, I would like to refer to the innovation fair that we organized together in Brussels last year. South Africa was very well presented at this innovation fair. For example, we had amongst us one startup. The name is a little bit difficult to pronounce, but Abaguli 4IR. It's a women-led company in the area of innovation and technology that provides training on digital skills. And we also had an innovation hub with us that is based in South Africa. It's called Enrich in Africa Center, which started many years ago with funding from Horizon 2020 that came before Horizon Europe. It's based in Cape Town, and it really acts as a bridge or like an entry point for companies, startups, incubators, and accelerators from Africa, South Africa to Europe, and vice versa. Enrich in Africa is also involved in one of the big projects that is uniting us, the Africa-Europe Innovation Platform, that really acts as a network of networks, bringing African and European innovation ecosystems to contribute to the implementation of this policy document, the innovation agenda. And South Africa is also represented in this project, in the Africa-Europe Innovation Platform. So very good. And as I said, why is the innovation agenda important? Because we're using Horizon Europe, the European Union's R&I program, to implement the priorities that our ministers set together. Most of you probably have heard of Horizon Europe before. This is the 7-year EU's framework program for research and innovation, 93.5 billion euros over 7 years. It's ending in 27. And in Brussels, we are currently very busy preparing for the next 7 years of this program, which would start in 2028. This program, although it has a European name, is mostly open to international collaboration, and researchers, innovators from South Africa are doing very well. This program is organized through calls for proposals, and the Africa Initiative 4 that we're presenting to you today includes these call for proposals, in which we are encouraging researchers from both sides to work together. And you will hear all about these calls today from my colleagues. You will hear about how to prepare a project proposal, for example, how to develop a consortium, because it's always about collaborative research. Researchers from Europe and Africa need to join forces, at least in the collaborative projects. It's a little bit different in the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, which are supporting individual researchers, but you will also get a presentation about this and how you can actually have access to it today. So please ask as many questions as you wish. This is supposed to really be a very hands-on session. The Africa Initiative 4 that you will hear about, it's the 4th edition. This time it runs over 26 and 27, and it regroups around 25 topics, of course, for proposals for a budget of 500 million. Why do we continue to push for this Africa Initiative? I mean, the major advantage is that it is regrouping the topics. I mean, every work program of Horizon Europe has around 1,000 topics, of which the majority is open for international cooperation. But in some of these, we really encourage collaboration with researchers from Africa. And this Africa Initiative is a way to make that more visible. And if we look at the statistics from the first 3 editions, we really see that this is making an effort, is making a difference. Perhaps in terms of the number of grants that are signed, the increase since the last framework program is not dramatically higher. It has increased by 3.5%. However, the number of unique African participations in terms of annual rise has increased by 62.5%. So that is a very major increase. And if we look at the budget allocated to African organizations, it has increased by 188% compared to Horizon 2020, with a 97.5% overall budget allocated to African partners. So the role of African researchers in these collaborative research projects is becoming more and more important, which is a very encouraging sign for us. And as I said before, and Vinny as well, South Korea is by far the top runner on in Horizon Europe among African countries. Let me highlight a few success elements of South Africa's participation. In terms of numbers, again, the success rate of eligible applicants from South Africa is 24%, which is above the average in the EU, which is only at 19.6%. So you see it's a hugely competitive program. More budget is allocated to South Africa-based institutions than throughout the entire 7-year period of Horizon 2020. So we're already at 76.5 million euros versus 62 million euros. And for the first time, there has also been a principal investigator in South Africa who won a European Research Council grant, which are really the top of the iceberg. South Africa has most participations in the area of health research, and this also includes the Global Health Partnership that Vinny mentioned, as well as in the Mobility Human Capital Development Program I referred to earlier, the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions. Speaking of EDCTP3, so since health research is really, let's say, the most successful areas for South African researchers to participate in, this also includes EDCTP3, so the Global Health Program, which aims to accelerate the clinical development of innovative solutions for the control of poverty-related infectious and neglected diseases, while also at the same time building capacity on research and innovation, regulatory and pharmacovigilance aspects. So South Africa is in this program the second largest grant recipient after the UK. It has already 27 projects for an amount of 30 million euros going to South African researchers, and 19 different South African institutions are involved. So we see that it's really going very well. These results, both in Horizon Europe and in the Global Health Partnership, are very encouraging. But we can always do more, and this is the reason why we are organizing webinars like today to enlarge the pool of researchers from South Africa that can have access to the program. So yeah, I hope that this session is going to be useful for you. Again, it depends on you. You are invited to actively participate, to ask your questions. There are people around the table who have the experience, who can answer your questions, who can share their experience, so that when we connect again for a webinar, perhaps in a year or 2 years' time, the numbers are even better. So thank you very much to Vinny. Thank you very much, Yedilvana, for moderating today's session. Vincenzo, good luck, and well, see you all soon. Bye.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ms. Ninge, to deliver this amazing speech. It's actually beyond welcoming, with a lot of encouraging numbers, data in EU Africa, EU South Africa. And also thank you also for inviting South Africa researchers, innovators, and institutions to actively participate in the Horizon Europe opportunities in general. Thank you so much. With this, we can move to the next presentation, which is a key presentation of today's webinar, which will be delivered by Dr. Vincenzo Lorusso, who is the Policy Officer at EU for South Africa Cooperation on Research and Innovation at the European Commission, DG Research and Innovation. So he will tell us mainly on the currently open call, which is Africa Initiative 4, but of course, he will tell us more on cooperation of EU Africa and EU South Africa in particular. Thank you very much, Dr. Vincenzo, for joining us. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Yafana, and a very good afternoon, everybody, or perhaps good evening, or maybe good morning, depending on where colleagues are connecting from, of course. Good afternoon to our South African friends and colleagues and partners. I'll try and share my screen, and Yafana, if you could please enable me to do so.
Yeah.
And
I think you can share just at the middle. There is.
Yes, perfect. Yeah, thank you very much. And could you also confirm while I'm sharing my screen that you can see now slide number 2? Yes, you can.
Yes, you can see it. Yes.
Perfect. So good afternoon once again, and indeed very pleased to be conveying this presentation on Horizon Europe and its Africa Initiative 4, which is an integral part of Horizon Europe Work Programme 2026-2027. At the same time, we will also take this opportunity to talk about the calls for proposals that are still of relevance from a timeline viewpoint as part of the Global Health European and Developing Countries Clinical Trials Partnership, EDCP3. Before doing that, a little bit, if you allow me to introduce or illustrate the policy context and the policy making and doing, as I love to call it, what we're doing this for and what this initiative is aiming to fulfill from a joint policy perspective. And indeed, when referring to a joint policy, I'm also referring to the multilateral cooperation that happens, and therefore the cooperation between the EU and South Africa that happens in the context of the multilateral AU-EU cooperation. From that, we will take a look at the performance so far of South Africa and South Africa-based institutions in Horizon Europe so far, as well as in EDCP3. And finally, indeed, we will comment and discuss on the calls for proposals, part of the Africa Initiative 4. I'm also saying this while being particularly pleased to see that the attendance of this webinar is actually going beyond EU and South Africa. I see a few participants and stakeholders coming from other African countries, and the reason for that, of my further, let's say, rejoicing about it, is the fact that indeed within Horizon Europe and the Africa Initiative 4, as well as within the EDCP3 calls, there are indeed opportunities for multilateral cooperation, as well as for enhancing the intra-Africa cooperation with European partners and counterparts. What we're doing this for, this is because of a joint policy that was politically adopted in July 2023. You can see it in here, is the 10-year AU-EU innovation agenda. Politically adopted in 2023, it will undergo implementation until the end of 2033. In a sentence, this agenda aims to foster a more effective translation of research and innovation into more products, services, businesses, and jobs in both Africa and Europe. Of course, easily said and done, but of course, with that ambition, then do come the instruments that aim to contribute to its implementation. And from the EU side, the three main instruments that were devised, and are being devised and deployed to contribute to the implementation of this agenda, Horizon Europe, indeed, with its Africa initiative. We are now at the 4th edition, meaning that we started indeed with the work program 2021-2022. We also have the Mediterranean initiative that enhances cooperation on research and innovation between Europe and the Mediterranean region, and therefore with that also with Northern Africa. Then for the actions of the agenda that are particularly concerning public health, we have indeed the Global Health, EDCP3 work programs, and also broadly speaking, the Global Gateway Africa-Europe investment package. The areas of intervention of this joint agenda are really all across the board. As you can see in here, they involve public health, green transition, including food and nutrition security and sustainable agriculture, as well as climate change and sustainable energy. Then also the cross-cutting area of innovation and technology, with AI being part of that. Capacities for science, which is linked to capacity building, researchers, innovators, mobility, and indeed mobility schemes, generally speaking, and cross-cutting issues. Now, this agenda has been, apologies if I'm using a rather banal and yet very immense term, co-created, in the sense that it's really been devised and designed within a AU-EU working group, the Africa-Europe team, that reported to the AU-EU high-level policy dialogue on science, technology, and innovation. That for more than 2 years, really, of course, with the support of independent experts, both from Africa and Europe, carried out an extensive mapping of needs and gaps within research and innovation ecosystems within Africa and Europe. And based on that, this agenda was shaped, was first proposed in the form of a draft, then discussed extensively with stakeholders through a public consultation, but also through numerous engagements throughout the year 2022. And then the final version of the agenda aimed really to encapsulate the feedback and the inputs that we received from stakeholders, and now indeed for the actions to turn into reality. These were the 5 chapters of gaps and needs that were identified. I acknowledge that the separation between each of them is not necessarily very clear-cut in many times. Innovation ecosystem, innovation management, knowledge exchange, including technology transfer and sharing, access to finance, and human capacity development. So in a nutshell, the actions of the AU-EU innovation agenda, and therefore the projects that are cascaded from them, aim to address multidimensionally, according to the different priority areas, these gaps and needs. The next 3 slides bear a summary of the short, medium, and long-term actions of this AU-EU innovation agenda across the different thematic areas. It is far from my intention, and we haven't got the time to go into the details of each of them. Just for you to know, of course, you will receive a copy of this presentation. As soon as I'm done, I'll put it in the chat, but you also receive it as a PDF on the website, on the registration website of today's event. And thanks again for being with us in such large numbers. For you to know that indeed the short-term actions are those whose implementation needs to have started by the end of 2026. So from 2023, the time of the adoption of the agenda, until the end of this year. The medium-term actions are those whose implementation is expected to have started by the end of the year 2030. And the long-term actions are those that are expected to have started and also reaping results and fruits, tangible results and measurable results by the end of 2033. And of course, for this agenda to be successfully implemented, it requires a multi-sectoral and multidisciplinary approach, not only entailing the contributions and the participation, of course, of higher education and research institutions essential in this space, but also the private sectors. By private sector, I mean startups, SMEs, but also the big corporations, civil society organizations and citizens with that, and of course, the policymakers as well. Leveraging as much as possible, and certainly within the African continent to begin with, the demographic dividends and empowering youth in terms of creativity, in terms of entrepreneurship, in terms of critical mass as well. I put information on this slide pertaining to the ongoing implementation of this agenda that goes beyond Horizon Europe, because I believe there are opportunities for those of you, indeed all of you, working in the space of research, innovation, and entrepreneurship at the Africa-Europe interface. As part of the implementation of this 10-year joint agenda, we indeed carried out numerous regular stakeholder events with the goal not only to provide concrete facilitation opportunities, but also to shed information, light on available, readily seizable opportunities for stakeholders to really scale up their innovative solutions and make at least one step forward towards getting closer really to the marketplace and to societal uptake. So the initiatives are summarized in here. We have a dashboard of the EU Innovation Agenda, which is a living inventory of projects, programs, partnerships, scholarship schemes that are in line with the objectives and actions of the EU Innovation Agenda, including the initiatives in which you are already involved, that are already up and running, have secured funding. Indeed, as long as they are in line with a checklist of criteria that I'm going to show, they could be indeed included in this dashboard of the EU Innovation Agenda. And there's a publicly accessible expression of interest mechanism for you to submit your proposal. We also have an annual monitoring, evaluation, and learning assessment that really aims to measure the impact of what we are doing. And importantly, we carry out several stakeholder events, including a big innovation fair on an annual basis. My head of unit, Ninke Bosma, referred to the Innovation Fair of October 2025 in Brussels, in which South Africa was also very much represented. We also carry out biannual workshops on different thematic priority areas according to the actions of the agenda. And the next one for the first half of this year will focus on youth-led innovations. I was referring to the Innovation Fair of October 2025 in Brussels. This was a big innovation event with more than 500 participants on site and more than 200 online. South Africa was extensively represented, with one startup pitching and being selected among 18, outcome of more than 250 expressions of interest. So well done for that. This startup is indeed Abagu Gukoli for IAR, one incubator, the Cape Town-based Enriching Africa Centre, and South African entities and institutions were also represented within at least 3 projects: the AfriFood Links, SEED, RNI, and the Africa-Europe Innovation Platform. So I want to acknowledge those institutions from South Africa who are part of these projects as well. Moving forward, and a bit of the way the event looked like, with the pitching happening on the main stage, with the pitches happening on the main stage of the researchers and innovators, then the actual exhibition space where the entrepreneurs, the innovators, the researchers could showcase to potential collaborators and peers, and investors, importantly enough, the solutions that were indeed they are coming up with, and then the awarding ceremony with the winner amongst the startup pitchers in the afternoon. Now, these events are not just a one-shot kind of experience, and they really are part of a long-term engineering strategy, as part of which, indeed, we are now taking care of supporting the further de-risking of those innovative ventures that were brought on stage at the Innovation Fair in Brussels through existing projects and programs that are supported also through Horizon Europe. And one of them is indeed the Africa-Europe Innovation Platform project, the AEIP, to use the acronym, which is funded to be running until June 2027. If you haven't heard about it, and if you work in the space of Africa-Europe cooperation and innovation, this is the go-to project that is really very closely involved in the implementation of this joint policy initiative. It really brings together innovation networks and hubs to act as a sort of network. Now, with a particular work package of this project, we are now supporting tailor-made, bespoke, providing bespoke supports to marketing support and R&D support to the startups that were amongst the selected ones, the 18 that were brought onto stage at the Innovation Fair, for them to really, at the end of the 18 months, to make it several steps closer to the marketplace and to society. And I'm happy to take this opportunity to announce that this year's Innovation Fair will take place in November time. We'll focus specifically on food and nutrition security and sustainable agriculture. So for those of you working in this space, please keep on checking regularly the EU Innovation Interface, which is the one-stop web portal, which we populate regularly on in news pertaining to the ongoing implementation of the innovation agenda. And importantly, this innovation fair will happen within the CM Institute in Bari, which is a strong institution known in the space of food and nutrition security and agriculture. That's how the AU-EU innovation interface looks like. We populate it not just with information, but also with the recordings of the biannual workshops that we do, with the recordings particularly of the videos that pertain to the presentation on capacity building, really readily available opportunities for stakeholders. And we also advertise that this dashboard of the AU innovation agenda, this living inventory repository, which is open to all projects and programs that are already running and therefore have secured funding or about to be running, and in any case have secured funding, that can indeed be inventoried in this dashboard, where through which they can also become better aware, familiar with similar initiatives operating within the same space, within the same priority area, under the same objective, and therefore hopefully start collaborating, if not ideally synergizing with them. For initiatives to be included in the dashboards of the AU Innovation Agenda, and the link for expressions of interest is published here, is included here, excuse me, they need to fulfill this 10 criteria. I mean, we haven't got the time to go into the details, but for you to know that, of course, they need to be in line with one objective and at least one action of the AU Innovation Agenda. Please do consider applying for an expression of interest, because indeed it enforces the impact of the policy, of the ongoing policy implementation. That's how the dashboard looks like, with initiatives, programs, projects being listed indeed according to the thematic area of priority of intervention, the title of the action of the innovation agenda, to whose realization they contribute, with information on the time of start, time of end, fund the entity, implement the entity, geographic scope, and the budget as well. And as you can see, also for green transition, and so on and so forth. Now, let us get into Horizon Europe. Today, my presentation will focus essentially on the so-called Pillar 2 of Horizon Europe. So Horizon Europe is the biggest public funding instrument. We're talking about 19.5 billion euros deployed through a 7-year framework program time from 2021 to 2027. It is therefore articulated into work programs. We are now in the last work program of Horizon Europe, the one of the years 2026 and 2027. And it's also organized, as you can see here, in pillars, pillar 1 to 2 and 3. My presentation and the calls for proposals that will be presented today that are part of the Africa Initiative 4, they all fall within the pillar 2. Pillar 2 that is organized in thematic clusters, that's how we call them. Cluster 1 on health, cluster 2 on culture, creativity and inclusive society, cluster 3 on civil security for society, cluster 4 digital industry and space, cluster 5 climate, energy and mobility, and cluster 6 food, bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture and environment. Nonetheless, today's presentations will also include opportunities for researchers, innovators within Pillar 1, particularly the mobility scheme that is known under the name of Maurice Kloske Actions, that will be presented by my colleague and moderator of today's event, Fana, who's one of the 2 representatives of EURAXESS Africa, who's also facilitating today's meeting together with Ahmed. They are the go-to persons, also with May, who's also working for operating from Egypt. Now, my head of unit, Ninke Bosma, referred to this earlier on when indeed sharing information about the overall improvements of Africa's participation within the framework program. And if you compare this with the previous framework program, which is the one of Horizon 2020, overall, we've seen really a major expansion of Africa's participation, with the annual participation that is on average more than 60% positive, with plus 3.5% of a larger number of grants being signed involving African institutions. And when it comes to the budget going into Africa as part of Horizon Europe, we've seen an increase of almost 200%. These are quantitative data that are absolutely important, absolute numbers, if I could use this expression. But of course, for us, it's also extremely important to look at the qualitative aspects of this improvement and making sure that this participation is also as wide as possible, involving as many African and, in this case, South African institutions as possible. South Africa is doing particularly well indeed in the framework program, although we're here to make sure the good is turning to better, because the sky is the limit, or maybe just the beginning. South Africa is the 2nd country for participation following the US when it comes to non-associated third countries, partners of the EU. So with approximately 77 million euros that have been allocated to South Africa as part of Horizon Europe so far. When we look at the participation among African countries, South Africa is spearheading the group, as you can see in here, 77 million euros, in this case with 181 projects that have been already granted for South Africa, well, entailing participation of South African entities, a success rate of 24%, which is higher than the average EU success rate of approximately 20%. And then followed by Kenya, Tunisia, Morocco, Uganda, Ghana, Tanzania, Nigeria, Egypt, and so on and so forth. Close-up look at the figures coming from SA. I'd like to highlight that, out of the 77 million euros that are being dispersed to South Africa-based institutions as part of Horizon Europe, they are the consequence of 181 signed project grants, to which now 42 grants are under preparation. So it means that very soon, in total, there will be 224 signed grants that involve South African institutions, which is certainly very positive and encouraging information and data. The success rate is also very encouraging. When we look at the mobility scheme, Mariskowska reactions, there's 58 mobility schemes that have been already secured involving South African institutions and one ERC principal investigators as well. When we look at the participation of South Africa in the framework programs over the years, so according to framework programs, the participations are still very positive. I mean, let's consider that in Horizon 2020, this 316 figure refers to the entire 7-year period. In this case, we are on a good journey to certainly reach that number, considering that we still have at least 2 more years to go. When it comes to the budget allocated, well, the budget of Horizon 2020 has already been overtaken with now 77 million euros compared to the approximately 62 million euros allocated throughout the 7-year period, 2014 to 2021 of Horizon 2020 of Horizon 2020. What are the areas in which South Africa is participating the most in terms of projects? You heard this before, certainly health with approximately 50 projects, then followed by mobility schemes, researchers' mobility projects, Mariskowska reactions, then projects in the area of food and nutrition security, bioeconomy and agriculture, and then also digital industry and space, and climate, energy, and mobility. This is the list of the top 20 projects. Apologies for those of you who are involved in projects that are not referred to or mentioned in this list simply for the lack of space, for you also to have an idea of the budget that is allocated and the areas of interventions of these projects. You can see ranging from innovation ecosystems to food and agriculture, research infrastructure, health, digital, and climate. So despite the fact that we've seen that the majority of projects involving South Africa are in the area of health, researchers' mobility, food security and agriculture, climate and digital, we can see indeed that in the top 20 already, there's quite a nice variety of themes that are being dealt with. Perhaps if you are involved in some of these projects or 20 projects, do express yourself, do manifest yourself in the chat. Looking at institutions that are participating in Horizon Europe projects from South Africa, approximately 60% of them are higher education and research institutions. Then approximately 20% of them are private entities, followed by approximately 10% of pure research organization and some 6.5% public bodies and public institutions. It's interesting information. For example, on Friday, we were having a similar information session with friends and partners from Rwanda, and in Rwanda the split is quite different, with approximately 35 to 35% of private sector and higher education and research institutions. So in a nutshell, we're seeing that the participation, the contribution in Horizon Europe projects from the higher education and research institution sector in South Africa is certainly very important, with opportunities of growth also coming from the private sector, of course. When we look at the budget that is attributed to institutions types, we see that approximately 50% of the Horizon Europe projects granted to South African institutions goes to higher education and research institutions. and 20% approximately to private entities, and approximately 5% to public bodies, and 16% to pure research organizations. We mentioned in private sector participation, so private sector budget is approximately 19% of the overall Horizon Europe budget going into South Africa. These are the 10 SMEs from South Africa participating in the framework program for an overall budget of 6 million euros, as you can see in here. Of course, we acknowledge them all, indeed with appreciation, and indeed we want to highlight the fact that in project consortia for Horizon Europe, there is indeed space not only for universities and higher education research institutions, but also to private sector entities and legal entities from civil society organizational space. The next two slides will bear the institutions that are involved in Horizon Europe projects that have been involved so far in two slides. So here the top 30, with of course all due acknowledgement and appreciation to all of them, from the top participating until the next slide. And of course, this webinar is as much also as addressed to those who are not part of, representatives of those institutions that are not part yet of the Horizon Europe project. So University of Cape Town is leading the ranking, followed by Stellenbosch University, Wits Health and Wits University, and University of Cape Town is also involved through the institution of the University of Cape Town Lung Institute, Ltd, and therefore approximately University of Cape Town ecosystem is approximately being granted more than 15 million euros. Then University of Pretoria, the Department of Science, Technology and Innovation, and so on and so forth. As you can see, then in the top 30 of institutions, we move from approximately 14 million euros to 500,000 euros. And then in the second part of the chart, where we can see participation includes also institutions that are participating in kind, although as partners, although not yet benefiting from grant funding, we see that the figures of participation are still not negligible at all. And institutions from South Africa, also in the second arm of the chart, are benefiting from grants that are ranging from around 500,000 to 20,000 euros. In terms of top collaborators or countries that are participating with South Africa in project consortia, we see that Germany is the top one partner, followed closely by France, Spain, Italy, Netherlands, UK, Belgium, Switzerland, Greece, and so on and so forth. Allow me to make a comment here. It will take us to, we will need to get to the ranking number 14 to find the first African partner of South Africa, which is Kenya. I have to say that year after year, this is pretty much conserved as a statistic, and then followed by the next one will be Uganda and Ghana. I'm highlighting this because Horizon Europe and the African Initiative 4 projects are also an opportunity for multilateral cooperation and certainly intra-Africa cooperation with the European Union. We will see a different trend when it comes to the Global Health European and Developing Countries Clinical Trials Partnership projects, for example. And this is what I want to show next. Indeed, South Africa is the second participant in the Global Health EDCP3 projects, following the UK, as you can see, with approximately 30 million that have been granted to South Africa-based institutions as part of 27 projects that you see indeed grouped here, mostly targeting the development of new therapies, diagnostics as well. These are the 19 South Africa-based institutions that are involved in EDCP projects so far. Indeed, there's the Work Program 2026, which brings in additional partnering opportunities also for other South Africa-based institutions to be granted. And when it comes to the links with other countries in collaboration as part of the Global Health EDCP3, we see a different trend in the sense that indeed in the top 5 already, because of the framework of the program, we see that there's already in the second ranking an African partnering country to South Africa-based institutions. So number 1 is indeed the UK, number 1 partner for South Africa, then followed by Mozambique, Spain, US, the Netherlands, and Uganda again. We get now into the ending on the Africa Initiative 4. So Africa Initiative 4 is really a package of calls for proposals that are part of the Horizon Europe Work Program 26-27 that aims to really foster, strengthen collaboration between African, South African included, and European researchers and innovators as they develop solutions to address common challenges, as was referred to earlier on by Vinny particularly, to really contribute to the implementation of this multilateral EU innovation agenda. It's called the Africa Initiative 4 because luckily it follows prior initiatives, the Africa Initiative 1, 2, and 3. The Africa Initiative 1 was started with the work program 21-22, as you can see, with conspicuous amounts of budgets that were assigned particularly to walk the talk and contribute to the tangible realization of this policy initiative. In the case of the Africa Initiative 4, and again, you will get this full presentation as a PDF, we're talking about 25 topics that amount to approximately 500 million euros, according to different thematic clusters. They do aim to contribute to the implementation of the medium and the long-term actions of the EU innovation agenda. Allow me to draw your attention on the fact that, and this is why I highlighted it here, that by clicking on the hyperlink that you have here, which we're going to put in the chat in a second, as soon as I'm done, you'll be able to access to a list of 27 topics on the Funding and Tenders portal of Horizon Europe. These 27 topics are indeed the 27 calls for proposals that I'm going to be presenting in the next few slides, 25 of them that are part of the Africa Initiative 4, and 2 of them that are part of the Global Health EDCTP3 Work Program 2026, the 2 of them that are still open for application expression, proposals to be submitted. We run very regular information sessions, and in the case of South Africa, considering that this work program is of 2 years, we are envisaging continuing in sharing information and enhanced capacity around Horizon Europe, also for other engagements in the second half of this year. This slide bears the thematic overview of the topics of the calls for proposals of the Africa Initiative 4. So whether you're interested in public health, green transition, innovation and technology, capacity building, and cross-cutting issues, that's the, so to say, snapshot of the topics that are covered by these calls for proposals. So in public health, we move from prevention and treatment of infectious diseases through small molecules and monoclonal antibodies to development of novel vaccines against viruses with epidemic potential, innovative antimicrobials for resistant pathogens, to better understanding and anticipation of the impacts of climate change and health. Allow me to say that, strategically speaking, these calls are very much complementary from a technology readiness level as well, to those that are later stage when it comes to technology readiness level of the Global Health EDCTP3. Moving from public health to green transition, and here we have the 2 sub-areas of food and nutrition security and sustainable agriculture, and climate change and sustainable energy. There's really a plethora of topics. So renewable energy and security, energy security in Africa, climate weather models in Africa, Africa-EU co-fund action on climate modeling, and on climate, modeling and prediction of extreme events, EU partnership on food and nutrition security and sustainable agriculture, water, nutrition, energy nexus, extremely important, food processing in Africa, plant health for reduction of farm and storage losses in Africa, also extremely important, and All Atlantic Ocean Research and Innovation Alliance, in which, of course, South Africa is very much involved for obvious reasons. Moving from green transition to innovation and technology, we have 2 themes of importance that are covered by the Africa Initiative 4, international cooperation in AI and artificial intelligence for early warning and preparedness. For capacities for science, we have a topic on the strengthening the international dimension of research infrastructures. And for cross-cutting issues this year, there's a lot of space also for social sciences and humanities. Topics are focusing on democracy in low and middle income countries, development aid and democratic governance, human rights, sustainable cultural tourism, creative alliances, global partnerships in cultural policies, and culture and creative industries in innovation, and supporting post-conflict democracy and reconstruction. The next few slides really bear the exact language of the exact topics that you will find listed by clicking on the hyperlink here. So I'm not going to read through all of them, but just basically the semantics were covered by the language that is born on this slide. But just for you to know that these are the topics that you will find once clicking on that very hyperlink on the opening slide. And for you to keep in mind that some of these calls for proposals have approaching deadlines. For example, for health, the most stringent ones are the ones of mid-April this year, the one on towards better understanding of the impacts of climate change on health and the development of novel vaccines for viral pathogens with epidemic potential. Otherwise, the deadlines for proposals are quite comfortable for mid-April next year. When you see the acronym CSA, Coordination Support Action, refers to calls for proposals that are aiming at setting up facilitating networks and not just addressing research and innovation questions. For IA, the acronyms refer to innovation actions for projects that address technology readiness level that is higher than 5, and for research and innovation actions is for projects that address research questions with an early stage of technology readiness level, and therefore they can be also having an important angle of fundamental research. Cluster 2, the same kind of approach. These are the exact titles of the topics that were mentioned earlier on between the cross-cutting, especially for the area of cross-cutting issues. The deadlines for submitting the proposals are all quite comfortable, starting from September this year and then continuing into September next year. For Cluster 4, digital industry and space, the 2 calls related to AI. One call has the one on advanced local digital twins using AI for early warnings and preparedness. The deadline is mid-next a month by now. So for this, you need to act quickly if you haven't started yet, if that's of interest, of course. The other one is only in March next year. For climate, energy, and mobility, Cluster 5, same approach here. You see there is only one particular call that is the earliest to come, improving climate and weather models for Africa. Deadline is in a month's time, and it's a research and innovation action, RIA. For Cluster 6, food and bioeconomy, natural resources, agriculture and environment, there's 3 calls that have deadlines that is approaching. The one on boosting plant health, the green transition food processing in Africa, 14th of April for both, and the one on supporting All Atlantic Ocean Research and Innovation Alliance, 15th of April, still this month. The other ones are for next year. For the research infrastructure dimension, the call expires by the 16th of June this year. Looking at the Global Health EDCP3 work program, there are 2 calls for proposals that are still of topical interest from a timeline viewpoint, and they are the coordination support actions that really aims at setting up facilitating networks, one on enhancing integrated research and healthcare in sub-Saharan Africa for digital innovation and artificial intelligence, and another one on training and innovation networks for sustained capacity development related to ethics, regulatory, pharmacovigilance, and related digital regulatory platforms. In both cases, the deadline is early September this year. I'm going to bring my presentation to an end just by showing something. If my computer cooperates for a second. Let me see. Trying to. Yes, I believe this should be. I believe this should be that. Hopefully you can see my screen. Hopefully you can see that I'm on the Funding and Tenders portal. Can you confirm, please?
I can see it from my side.
Perfect. Thank you, Fana. So just to conclude as practically as I can, on the fact that now I'm, as an example, on one of the calls for proposals that is actually part of the Africa Initiative for the one for health, enhancing integrated research and healthcare in sub-Saharan Africa for digital innovation and artificial intelligence. We will discuss about this later on, but just for you to know that indeed this is the way every course looks like, with topic description, of course, to go into the details for you to be able to address every single point for the proposal, the topic updates, the conditions and documents, also very important from an eligibility criteria viewpoint, the budget overview. What I would like to draw your attention, particularly now in this presentation, is the section that is called Partner Search Announcement. You can find it here, but you can also find it as scrolling down, as you can see. If you click on the Partner Search Announcement, and you're brought indeed here, view and edit, and you will find in this case 53 items that were posted. In this case, you can indeed look for expertise of potential partners, but also offer your own expertise of your own entities as representative of the institution you're working with. And my suggestion for those who've not taken part into Horizon Europe projects yet, who are not yet part of a particular project consortium for a particular topic of interest, would be to go through all of the 53 items and indeed reach out, establish contacts to those who posted for each of them based on your interest. And at the same time, number 2 action, post your own announcement. To do so, you'll be required to set up your personal identification code, the PSC code, which in any case your institution needs to have set up for you to be able to then be part of a project consortia that submits an expression of interest. So really that's a very practical opportunity on how to get started. From experience, I could tell you that stakeholders will reach out to you once you have posted your announcement, because indeed posting comes with an email and contact details that are shared for your organization, because indeed you're participating to Horizon Europe with your organization's institutions framework, not as individual researchers. That's important to keep in mind. I think just a second again. And this really, I believe, brings my presentation to an end. Thank you all very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Vincenzo, for a very informative, valuable presentation. I think it's very clear, but maybe we have some questions on the chat box. You can still write in the chat box or in Q&A box if you have any. This is, I think, the right time to ask question to the right person. Okay, let me start reading one from Q&A. Helene is asking, could you say a bit more about which South African institutions are involved in these projects? At the beginning of today's session, the importance of including HDI institution was highlighted, and I would be interested to learn how the institution spread looks across the funded projects. Thank you. Maybe just reflect on this, Dr. Vincenzo, first.
Sure. Thank you very much, Fana, and thank you very much, colleague, for your question, which indeed allows me to comment on something that I didn't have the time to. Indeed, we are also, as part of this ongoing endeavor of sensitizing and sharing information on Horizon Europe, we are also organizing sessions in strong partnerships with the STI in South Africa and with the EU delegation across different and all of the South Africa's HDIs. And once we do that, we also keep on monitoring their participation, not just in terms of retained proposals, but also in submitting proposals for Horizon Europe. As we speak, the only HDI that has been successfully granted, as part of as awarded as grantee of Horizon Europe project, is the University of the Western Cape. However, we can see that over the past few years, so there's been submissions and proposals that have been submitted by consortia involving also Limpopo, Venda, Sefako, and Walter Sisulu University. So compared to Horizon 2020, where such submissions were not made, we see this as an encouraging result. So indeed, thank you for bringing up this topic. My suggestion would be twofold for researchers and PIs coming from historically disadvantaged institutions to proactively reach out to those universities and research entities in South Africa that you see in this list here, page 1 and page 2, because indeed they have experience and they may be already filing in your proposal, they may be leveraging your expertise as a partner in the consortium. But also, I would like to make a plea to those stakeholders coming from South African institutions that have a positive track record of participation in Horizon Europe to also be potentially involving stakeholders coming from HDIs, according, of course, to the areas of collaboration, because indeed the way to start, in my view, would be by joining a consortium rather than, of course, leading a consortium, starting in a stepwise approach, proceed in a stepwise approach to then aim for broader space, because being part of a consortium still allows to benefit from conspicuous amounts of granting.
Thank you, Vincenzo. One more question from Sibusiso Lukheli. He says, maybe if he's man or female, I'm not sure. In submitting these proposals, should the lead of the consortium be from the European Union? and then they should include partners from South Africa universities? This is a question.
Yeah, thank you, Fana. So yes, this allows me to comment a bit on the nuances on the leading versus coordination, and so on and so forth. So I will first talk about Horizon Europe projects, and then I will talk about EDCTP3 projects that have a different nuance. For Horizon Europe projects, generally speaking, unless referred to with specific language in the eligibility criteria, coordination can be taken by Africa-based institutions, including South Africa. However, allow me to say that the coordination of Horizon Europe projects is a burdensome administrative task. It doesn't necessarily mean scientific leadership of the project. The coordinator is the one taking care of the reporting of the projects, taking care of also the disbursement of the funding. And I'm sure colleagues from EURAXESS are better aware of all the administrative tasks that are taken care by the project coordinator versus any other consortium member. It doesn't necessarily refer to the scientific leadership in the conception of the project proposal. When it comes to EDCTP3 projects, project coordinators can still be from South Africa. From other African countries, that is not possible because of the need for a bilateral EU science and technology agreement with third countries. Nevertheless, to overcome this issue, this is where the concept of the notion of scientific leadership was set up in EDCTP3 projects. So in EDCTP projects, South African entities can be both coordinators and scientific leaders, and entities coming from other African countries, they can be scientific leaders, but not coordinators of projects. But yet again, the wording of coordinator really refers to an administrative coordination, indeed, facilitation of the conduct of the project, from the proposal submission to the then reporting and interaction with the EU agency that handles the project portfolio. Perhaps, Fana, allow me to also address this question that sometimes comes up. What's the difference between the Horizon Europe funding and tenders portal and EURAXESS? You hear everything about it in Fana's presentation. EURAXESS is an EU-funded information conveyor. It's really a more than a one-stop web portal because it's so dynamic. There's many frequent flash notes, a lot of info sections. It's an instrument that is there to facilitate information sharing on EU-funded initiatives to really foster and enhance cooperation on research and innovation between Africa and Europe, including Horizon Europe. Ultimately, for any project proposals that needs to be submitted for Horizon Europe funding, this needs to go through the EU funding and tenders portal, which is the Horizon Europe tenders portal, which is also used for EDCTP projects, by the way.
Yeah, thank you very much, Vincenzo, for clarifying this. One more question from Q&A chat box. Where do you suggest an institution starts from the participate and apply for partnership and this funding opportunity? Where do you suggest an institution to start? This is a question.
Thank you, Fana, and thanks a lot for this practical question. So I would say, I'm going to put the link in the chat, the link that takes you to the list of 27 topics, the African Initiative for 25 topics and the 2 topics of the EDCTP. Depending on what your interest is, so you go through that list. Hopefully, I'm being practical enough. You click on your topic of interest. And then on the top left-hand side of the screen of each topic, as I showed you earlier on, you will see the partner search tool. So as a starting point, I would say click on that section. You read through all the posts that were made. You reach out to institutions that appeal to your organization based on the interest they expressed. And you also make your own post. So you go this twofold way, the two-way approach. And I believe that as a start, that something could come out of it. At least you'll be most likely part of a proposal, and all the best of luck with that. This will be my suggestion.
Very good. One question from Victoria, asking, I have seen searching through the dashboard for the projects under technology, innovation, security, but all seems to have ended. Which part of the dashboard should I be looking, particularly for 2026? I think if we have some time, maybe later, right after my presentation, we may again go to EU funding and tender portal and look into the currently available and also for the upcoming calls. And we maybe clearly exclude the closed calls so that it will be very clear to see the currently open and also the upcoming calls. And with this, I think some information about the statistics, we encourage you to look at the Horizon Europe dashboard, as well as if you want to more information about the Marius collaborator actions, you can look at the MSA statistics. It's also publicly open, available. So you can look to the statistics about the participation of South African institutions and even researchers' participation in the Pillar 1 of the Horizon Europe. So I think with this, if there are no more questions, because most of them are very similar, that's why I decided to skip. And also, most of you already asked us to share the recorded video as well as the presentation that, as already promised, we'll make sure that you'll get this information, these presentations later. So maybe if you allow me, I can start presenting EURAXESS Africa services and more detail on Pillar 1 of the Horizon Europe. Let me share my slide and we'll come back again if you have more questions after my presentation. I think everybody can see it. Oh, sorry. You already saw my slides, so I hope it's visible now. As already mentioned by Dr. Vincenzo, we are now going to present the new funding mechanisms. We are actually promoting the Horizon Europe at the moment, and we have some support mechanisms for African researchers, innovators, and institutions to actively participate in the existing Horizon Europe program. And we have also a very large and very informative website, that's EURAXESS. That's definitely very helpful for researchers in Africa to network, to find information, to get practical tips and many, many more information about participation, about available funding, training, and mobility opportunities through the Horizon Europe. So, as already mentioned, my name is Yedelfana Satarge Makonnen. I'm an associate professor at Addis Ababa University, as well as one of the regional representatives for EURAXESS Africa. I have a colleague, Dr. Ahmed Malal, who is based in Tunisia. He's also regional representative for Africa. And we recently, in a couple of months, we got Dr. Mai Bakri. She's based in Cairo, Egypt. But three of us, of course, we do for the whole continent across Africa and make sure getting information about the Horizon Europe funding. As you already mentioned, heard from Dr. Vincenzo, this is one of the largest or the biggest research and innovation funding program, 7 years program with about close to 100 billion euros. This very huge program for research and innovation. So let me a little bit explain about EURAXESS Worldwide before I talk about our services as EURAXESS Africa. This is an initiative supported by... Can you hear me?
Sorry, yes, we can hear you perfectly. Could you please try and put in full screen mode your slide deck?
Cannot see it? Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, yes. Thank you very much, Vincenzo. So let me continue from where I stop. So this initiative is launched in 2013 with a couple of hubs, but currently we are 9 hubs outside of Europe. So our aim, our goal is to serve as a bridge between Europe and the world, to foster the scientific research collaboration between researchers, institutions in Europe and their counterparts outside of Europe. So for us, EURAXESS Africa Regional Representative, our aims is to network, to bridge between Europe and African researchers, innovators, and institutions. So we are promoting international collaboration, particularly research collaboration, to tackle a global challenge, as well as enhance researchers' mobility and career developments. So as already mentioned, we have a EURAXESS website. It's a leading portal for research community. So as a researcher, I think this is really a very good platform that you need to know more about. So it is all-in-one leading networking platform and information tool for talented researchers in Europe and elsewhere. So in short, we provide free access to information about research in Europe. We provide information about research opportunities, collaborative research opportunities like Dr. Vincent was mentioning in Pillar 2. We also provide information on training and mobility. We provide trainings, hands-on practical tips to pursue scientific careers in Europe for researchers from Africa, for example, if they want to travel to Europe for career development. We also initiate or support international collaboration and transnational mobility. So the EURAXESS network is open to all nationalities, including nationalities in Africa. It's also open to all research fields, all disciplines, at all career levels, career stage. And at the moment, we have more than 694 service centers. Most of them are actually located in 43 European countries. And as already mentioned, we have 9 worldwide hubs that are located outside of Europe to foster this networking and collaboration. So all services of EURAXESS are free of charge. So I think we should get benefit of this. These are my colleagues, EURAXESS worldwide team. We are at the moment 18, distributed almost in all in the globe. We have EURAXESS North America, we have EURAXESS Latin America and the Caribbean, of course, EURAXESS Africa, we have India, Asia, China, Japan, Korea, Australia, and New Zealand. Of course, the central management is based in Brussels, and Christina Gomez is a program coordinator. So what makes special about EURAXESS worldwide now is we have more than 130,000 researchers, innovators in our database. I think this is the largest researchers database in the world, I would say. And among this, more than 22,000 are from Africa, and close to 2,000 are from South Africa. South African researchers and the community are really actively I'm sorry, I'm back. There was internet interruption. Sorry for that. Now I think you can see my slides. Sorry for the technical issue. So as mentioned, EURAXESS has the following tools. We disseminate, we communicate our news, our events through our website. We have a website dedicated for EURAXESS Africa and EURAXESS worldwide. We are also very active in social media, particularly LinkedIn, Facebook, X, and Instagram. We have more than 22,000 followers in social media. I hope most of you also follow us. So please, I encourage you also to follow us for information, for the upcoming relevant information on RNI. We organize various info and practical sessions on thematic areas, particularly dedicated. For example, recently we had Africa Initiative Continental webinar for Africa Initiative 4. We had also for the staff exchange on the MSA staff exchange. Definitely have more thematic webinars in the future. So if you are really interested in this and in the membership to EURAXESS Africa, and we'll send out a notification when they are available. You can look at our YouTube channel, so you can get more information about those thematic areas on MSA, ERC, and also Pillar to the Africa initiatives. So this is, again, as I already mentioned, this is our landing page. You can subscribe to our newsletter for free, and will come to you almost on a regular basis, on daily, weekly, and monthly and quarterly. So not only on webinar, we are also coming and visiting researchers, innovators in different African countries, in Africa, including several times to South Africa. We have been last year, before last year, even since 2022, I think. There was also a roadshow, including Dr. Vincenzo. We had together with the EURAXESS Africa colleague, Dr. Ahmed, and also from the STI. So we are trying our best to promote, to provide available information to researchers, innovators, and institutions in South Africa. So this is some of the pictures taken during our missions in South Africa. These are just the physical events since 2022. But to reach out to many researchers, institutions in Africa, of course, we organize several webinars dedicated to different thematic calls under Horizon Europe. We invite, of course, experts, policy officers, even head of units, to clarify and to give a presentation on these thematic areas, and our participants really get very valuable and timely and recent information about these core topics. So let me directly go to the Pillar 1 of the Horizon Europe to give you some information on this training and mobility program, particularly focus on the Marie-Skłodowska actions, particularly focus on the doctoral network and staff exchange, as well as postdoctoral fellowships, and of course, European Research Council grants if you have some time. So who can participate in MSA actions? Any organization, legal entities in the world, including in South Africa, can participate. It can be from academic, it can be from non-academic sector. As a low and middle income country, we can be a beneficiary, even though South Africa is not an associated country to Horizon Europe, but as a low and middle income country, we can actively participate in Horizon Europe opportunities. As individual researcher, any nationality can apply or can participate in Horizon Europe. As the name indicates, is research and innovation funding from European Union to the world. So anyone can participate. Of course, practically also we have seen this as a witness. So, as already mentioned by Dr. Vincenzo, the beneficiaries are, of course, the EU member states, as well as the associated countries. There are around 21 countries associated with the Horizon Europe. We have Tunisia and Egypt from Africa. But as already mentioned, as low and middle income country, including countries in Africa, including South Africa, we are automatically eligible for Horizon Europe. That's why actually, of course, we are leading, right? South Africa is leading in terms of beneficiary from Horizon Europe. So these are the 5 actions. We focus on doctoral network, postdoctoral fellowship, and staff exchange. And this program is named after a very famous Polish female scientist, Marie Curie. She won a Nobel Prize twice, one in chemistry and one in physics. So they are celebrating 30 years of excellence. So far, more than 150,000 projects are funded. Researchers involved in this research and training and mobility program from over 130 countries, including many countries in Africa. Among the participants, 42% are female researchers. So let's discuss a bit about specifically on doctoral networks. So the main objective of the doctoral network is doctoral candidates through collaborative PhD programs involving organizations from various sectors across Europe and beyond, including institutions from Africa. So we need to be part of one consortium, one international consortium, and proposing a research project. So any member of consortium are expected to train at least one PhD candidate during the project period. There are three types of doctoral network programs. One is the standard one, just a standard doctoral network that requires a participant implement the joint research program. The other two are doctoral networks, industrial doctorates program, and joint doctorate programs. In the industrial doctorate program is doctoral training with a non-academic sector. So at least more than 50% of the duration should be spent outside of the academia as we are training the industrial doctorates. And in joint doctorate, the doctoral program to deliver joint degree. So the candidate will get a joint degree from an institution in Europe and maybe one from third country, let's say. So eligible participants, as already mentioned, any legal entity worldwide, including in Africa, as far as it is legally registered or recognized in South Africa, can participate. The consortia could consist not only universities, consortium member could be from research institutions and research infrastructure, could be also from business, including SMEs, and other socio-economic sector can also participate. The minimum requirement to establish a consortium is 3 entities from 3 different member states, European Union member states, or associated countries, of which one must be from the member state, from EU member state. The rest two could be from associated country or others. So once this minimum requirement is satisfied, it's up to the consortium to add quite a number of partners from third country or from Europe or from associated countries. But the minimum should be 3 entities from 3 different EU member states or associated country, and one of them should be, of course, from the EU member states. I hope it is clear. So who is eligible researcher to participate in a doctoral network? Who is first, no doctoral degree at the date of recruitment. So the PhD should be his or her first PhD program. Second PhD is not allowed in this doctoral network program, and it's open, merit-based, and transparent recruitment procedure. So usually the PIs or the consortium publish their vacancy on our EURAXESS website, and everybody from the world can participate or can apply for it. And if they screened by the committee, they will join the project. So if you are interested in applying already secured project, you can use EURAXESS website. I will show you maybe right after my presentation how you access these jobs or just opportunities. What does the funding cover? As you know, the Marie Curie programs are prestigious. They have this project or the funding covers the living allowance, the mobility, family allowance, and support for research, training, networking activities, as well as the management and indirect costs. So each beneficiary, of course, must recruit at least one doctoral candidate and also can also send staff for secondments anywhere in the world, particularly in Europe and in associated country. So the doctoral networks can last for up to 4 and 5 years. For industrial, it is 5 years. For joint, it is a 4 years program. And of course, for the standard doctoral network program, also 4 years program. So funding is available for all kinds of discipline. It's a bottom-up kind of approach. So the topic, the title is up to the consortium. It's not really predefined by European Commission, but it's given to the consortium itself. So condition for researchers, as I already mentioned, second degree or second doctoral degree is not allowed, but there is no limitation on the age and nationality. Anyone from anywhere can apply to it. And researchers can be hosted, can be trained, can be supervised in third country organizations, like in the institutions in South Africa. So this is a really good opportunity, and it's also given us a low and a middle income country in the world. I mean, to the Horizon Europe specifically. Perfect. The other is another doctoral network, which is actually released very recently. It's included under the work program 2026-2027. We get this update just a couple of weeks ago in Brussels. We were there for training. In addition to the doctoral networks in Pillar 1 that I already presented, this is actually included in Pillar 2. Particularly in cluster 4. I told you this is bottom-up, right? Not defined, but this is already defined. This supports doctoral networks for AI in science, particularly for AI in science, which is under Pillar 2, cluster 4, industry and space, if you remember during the Dr. Vincent's presentation. So it's in Pillar 2, specific to AI in science. So if you are really interested in AI in science, you have more chances. Success rate will be very high. In addition to in Pillar 1, you can also click on the button says AI in science if you are really doing or interested particularly AI in science. And for this, European Commission allocated 30 million euros. And the information is not in Pillar 1, as I already mentioned, it's in Pillar 2, and you can find it in the Annex 14, Cluster 4, Annex 14. So this is really a particular interest for AI in science community. The other, let's move to the postdoctoral fellowship. It supports excellent postdoctoral researchers in all scientific disciplines. Again, there's no limitation on discipline or in the research field. And there are 2 types of postdoctoral fellowship. One is European Postdoctoral Fellowship. The other is Global Postdoctoral Fellowship. For us as a researcher based in third country, based in South Africa, for example, we should consider European Postdoctoral Fellowship. For this, researchers based in Africa, based in third country, can travel to European researchers, to institutions based in Europe, as well as institutions based in these 21 associated countries. So we can consider this, and I will tell some criteria, of course, specific criteria for researchers who want to apply for it in the next slide. Similar to doctoral networks, postdoctoral fellowship also covers the living allowance, the mobility, the family allowance, if it applies, and supports for research training and networking activities, management and indirect costs. Any costs related to the mobility, related to the research activities, definitely covered from the project. And third country organizations can host researchers for 1 to 2 years. And of course, the researcher may not year if it is a global postdoctoral fellowship. So again, here, universities, research centers, public institutions, businesses like SME, and also, of course, NGOs and other businesses can also participate in the postdoctoral fellowship program. The maximum duration of the secondment is half of the fellowship duration. If it is 4 years, then 2 years secondment could be possible to EU or associated countries. So here is the criteria for researcher who want to apply for postdoctoral fellowship. Should have a PhD, of course, should have a PhD degree at the time of deadline of the application, and have maximum of 8 years of experience in research after he or she obtain her or his PhD. So if you have experience of research after 8 years of your PhD, then you may consider other research funding programs. For example, I will explain later, European Research Council grant. But for postdoctoral fellowship, 0 to 8 years only allowed to apply for postdoctoral fellowships. And of course, if you want to resubmit, if not successful this year, and if you want to resubmit it for the next call for proposal, you should, of course, score at least 80% of the total, so that you will be eligible to resubmit your application to the same hosting institution, maybe to the same topic. But if you score less than 80, you may not be eligible to resubmit your application unless you change the title, unless you change the hosting institution. I hope it is clear. And there is also Seals of Excellence. This is a kind of certificate that excellent candidates, excellent applicants can get, who scores 85 and above. Which means the evaluators found that project or that proposal very excellent, very attractive, but cannot be funded due to lack of budget. So this kind of proposals, of course, have potentially funded elsewhere by universities in EU member states or maybe associated countries who are looking for excellence, Seals of Excellence awarded proposals. So I think this is also another opportunity for applicants who score Seal of Excellences. Let's move to the other one. In my opinion, this is the most promising one for institutions in Africa, because if we remember from Horizon 2020, African institutions won 150 projects. From 150 projects, 107 of them are from staff exchange. This tells us that this is really very promising and the success rate is very high. So what does this staff exchange mean? What are the aim of staff exchange under MSCA initiative? Is that it fosters international, intersectoral, and interdisciplinary mobility within the R&I staff. We call it secondments, for example. African researchers, innovators can travel to Europe or associated country for some time between 1 and 12 months in one or several stays. To exchange knowledge, to acquire new skill, and at the end of their stay, they, of course, they should return back to their hosting or their home institution and share their experience with the community. And knowledge transfer between participating organizations, collaboration between the academic and non-academic sector, cooperation across the globe to strengthen human capital. These are the main objectives of the MSc staff exchange. So I think it's maybe of interest for faculty members, not only faculty, I mean, when I say faculty members, not only professors, administrative, managerial, technical staffs could also participate in the MSc staff exchange program, of course. So the duration of the project is 4 years. During secondments, as I mentioned, 1 to 12 months per staff. So the minimum secondment is just one month. But this 1 to 12 months can be divided into several stays, one or multiple times travel to partnering institutions in Europe. The composition of the consortium, the minimum is 3 organizations in 3 different countries. Of course, at least 2 of which should be from EU member states or Horizon Europe associated countries. So again, 3 is a minimum requirement for consortium. But once this minimum is satisfied, it's up to the consortium, depending on the scope, depending on the geography of the project. You can have more institutions from partner institution, let's say from third countries like in South Africa. The budget maximum 360 per month per project. So this is increased from previous ones. A minimum number of participation, I already mentioned this. I can skip this. Yes. Eligible staff, any type of staff involved in R&I activities, researchers, administrative staff, managerial staff, technical staff. I already mentioned this. Secondary staff members, researcher at any career stage, example, from doctoral candidates to postdoctoral researchers in that particular or that sending institutions can participate also in this secondment. Secondment automatically eligible for are between EU and associated countries, from European Union or from associated country to third countries. Okay, this is possible, and as well as from low and middle income countries, that means from third countries to Europe or to associated countries. So 3 ways secondment is automatically eligible for EU funding. Let's see the EU contribution. Amount of unit cost per person month is increased to 5,170 in the recent work program, that is Horizon Europe Work Program 2026-2027. So this amount is increased. Out of this, 2,870 goes to the staff member unit cost, which includes the top-up, the salary, the accommodation, and travel. And in addition to this, we have also for research training networking, 1,300 euros. And for management and indirect costs, 1,000. So in total, 5,170 unit cost per person per month. That means the European Union provide funding per researcher per month, this amount. And it can be allocated this way. Let's come back to the Pillar 1. Again, it's an individual researcher. An individual researcher or innovator can apply for it. It's under Pillar 1, Excellence in Science. We have 6 different ERC schemes. We have starting grants. Researchers from 0 to 10 years of research experience after obtaining her or his PhD can receive up to 1.5 million euros for 5 years. This is a starting grant. Previously, it was 0 to 7. Now it increased from 0 to 10 years of experience after receiving their PhD. The next one is consolidator grants. Researcher with experience from 5 to 15 years after PhD can apply for it, can receive up to 2 million for 5 years period. In advanced grants, researcher with a track record of significant research achievement can receive up to 2.5 million for 5 years. So the fourth one is proof of concept. This is actually for already ERC grantees, for starting grantees, consolidated grantee, and advanced grantees. But we have only one grantees from South Africa in Synergy grantee. I will explain that later. So proof of concept may not be applied this time for us. In Synergy grant, it has a special feature. It's not for an individual PI. It, of course, allows 2 to 4 principal investigators to come together and apply, like in a consortium, apply together to receive up to 10 million euros for 6 years. So the most interesting part here is one PI can be based outside of Europe or associated country. Let's say one of the PI could be from South Africa. We have one grantee from University of Cape Town and the recent award. So this is really good. While he or she is staying in her institute, she can participate in this very big research activity. For the rest, the previous ones, of course, more than 50% of the research should be conducted in Europe or in associated countries. But of course, some part of the research could be done in third countries or in their institution based in third countries. Very recently, in this work program, 2026, ERC added plus grants scheme, where principal investigators at all career stage with a vision for transformative research can receive up to 7 million for over 4 to 7 years. So this is really very impressive, very high, but may require an excellent track record of researcher. So far from Africa, we got 24 ERC grantees, but this number is really small if you consider this big continent, and also since establishment of ERC in 2007, this number is really quite small, but we are working this kind of workshops. We present opportunities, so we expect many Africans should join ERC grantees, and this number should of course increase. Let me try to convince you. Always we chat with researchers. They told me that ERC, MSc, Pillar 2, Horizon Europe in general are very competitive. With this statistics, with this data, I will try to convince you that this is of course competitive, but at the same time, it's also promising. If you consider the Horizon 2020 from Africa alone, more than 2,297 researchers from 45 different African countries participate in this training and mobility program. This doesn't include any other EU funding program. This is just for MSA. So if you consider this is quite large number. In 7 years, more than 2,297 involvement is quite impressive. If we count the Horizon Europe so far from 2021 to 2025, I hope it may not also include the 2025 results. We already got 805 African researchers from 38 different African countries involved in this training and mobility program. If we count for South African, 65 researchers taking part in this mobility program. Of course, in Horizon 2020, we have quite large number. 312 researchers participated in this mobility program, the MSc program in general, in doctoral, staff exchange, postdoctoral, as well as co-fund and citizen. So these are the calendar for MSc in ERC. Some of are already closed, but you should know that MSc and ERC calls are released annually on a regular basis. So if you miss this time, you should prepare yourself for next year. So it is really crucial to stay alert for updates and announcement. You can find this kind of information in their particular website, the MSc website, the ERC website, as well as you can stay informed through EURAXESS Africa network. So if you allow me, I could directly go to the website, EURAXESS networking website platform, so that I can try to show you how you provide your profile so that you can be visible by other researchers in Europe and associated country, and of course beyond that. And also try to search partners. We have so many partners already announced their interest to collaborate. We have more than 26 institutions registered in our website. We have more than 16,000 researchers innovated in our database. So I will try to show you how you can communicate them and how you establish contacts and also maybe researcher or institution of your interest, and of course job for PhD and postdoctoral fellowships, or how you manage or how you browse and filter from this large database for your career development. If you want to study, if you want to join a research group in Europe or in associated country, for the upcoming course or the currently available course. Let's go in your browser. If you are on your computer, you can type EURAXESS. I hope you can see me, or maybe stop. Oh, you can see it, right? Anyone can say something if it is visible for you, the website I'm showing. Is it visible, right? Let's see on the chat box. Yes, thank you very much, Eloyd and Yop. So this is our website. This is a networking platform, the leading networking platform in the world. There is a lot of information, particularly on research in Europe. So if you can see it, one thing that you need to do is, of course, you need to log in. You need to have an EU login account or an EURAXESS login account. Maybe for the time being, you can leave it, but later you have to really register. You have to log in to EURAXESS network here, right, on the right top corner. Let's see in nutshells what kind of information we can get from this website. Okay, if you scroll down, you see EURAXESS in a nutshell, a lot of informations. Here at the middle, what do you see? Create your profile. So this is really very important for researchers, particularly researchers from Africa. Okay, if you create your profile here, you provide some description about yourself, what achievements you have, how many publication grants, maybe previously awarded grants and leadership, whatever you want to express, you can put those kind of informations. And you can also provide your contact address so that people interested in your area of interest, in your expertise, can communicate you, can contact you so that they may consider you in the upcoming calls as a partner, right? So we provide this information or this kind of access for free. Not only your individual profile, but you can also provide your institution profile. Maybe if you are a leader of universities or institutions in any institution in South Africa, including the professional society. For example, if you are a leader, you can also provide your society, your professional company or whatever information here so that people applying to any of these funding opportunities can look at you and maybe considering you and jointly writing or developing a proposal for the currently or the upcoming calls, right? So this is one important thing, but for interest of time, I may not go directly to it, but I leave for you. And you can also upload your CV, okay? So that people can get more information about your profile and your achievements. If you scroll down, you see there are so many data, some statistics about the center, the available job offers, including PhD and postdoctoral. We'll come back to that. So let's come back and stop and click here on jobs and opportunities section of the EURAXESS. If you click here, you see a lot of information. See on the yellow highlighted one, search for jobs. Of course, the PhD and postdoc are also considered as a job in Europe and associated countries, so you can find them all here. If you scroll down a bit, you see search for hosting, especially for postdoctoral fellowship. For European postdoctoral fellowship, you need to find hosting institution in Europe. And at the moment, there are thousands of institutions in Europe who already expressed or announced their interest to offer you hosting possibilities. So you can search those hosting institutions and get a support letter. Then you can apply for postdoctoral fellowship if you are interested to apply for postdoctoral fellowship for your career development. For us, maybe as a good example, we can look at for PhD vacancies in one of the EU-funded projects. We can click here, search for jobs. As I already told you, this is a very big database, so it may take some time to synchronize. So at the moment, there are more than 8,000 jobs, including thousands of PhD vacancies and postdoctoral fellowships, even master and other academic positions, professor, research, and in that way. Very good, it opens now. Let's see, so you see 8,589. So this is quite a large number, right? We cannot go to each of these to screen, but we need to really filter. we need to filter systematically and get the small items of result of our search. Let's see, as I already told you, maybe there are so many youngsters here. So if you are interested in PhD studying, you need to go to academic level and select PhD positions. Are you looking for any specific country? If that's the case, you can select one of this or multiple of this. There are at the moment 61 countries listed. So I don't know where you want to study or where you want to join the research group. Let's select some of these EU member states, and we specifying the let's see, the research field. There are 386 research fields, right? So again, this is also tricky. So you need to really very wise to when you select these topics. So this definitely fine tune your search, very specific to what you're really looking for. So instead of leaving it as it is, I encourage you to really select maybe some of the most important disciplines. Let's say, since I'm from chemistry, let's see some chemistry related areas or phrases that contains chemistry, for example. Now let's apply my filter. Let's see from 8,500 to what number of search it can reduce, 223, right? You see, so this is really very effective, right? Very effective screening. Here I got PhD position in ERC advanced grants, spring, molecular machine, and motorized self-assembly. This is from ERC. You see, ERC is an individual funding, right? But ERC grantees can also recruit PhD candidates, can recruit postdoctoral researcher. So this is one of that example. So if you want to join this ERC grantee as a PhD candidate, you can click here. University of Strasbourg, CNRS is in France, you see. They provide the description of the PhD, what it requires, some relevant information really about this, and also the contact information, of course. Here is the email, probably the PI or the secretary, whatever, from the group. So you can directly communicate with the PI of the project and submit your application. And if they found you interesting or relevant to the group or to that call, you could potentially join the team and do your PhD for 4 or 5 years period, right? So this way you can fine tune your search and get a small number of items based on your filtering capability. Then you start communicating with the PI. So this is how you filter, how you find PhD and postdoctoral and other positions for your career development in Europe and associated countries. So I think this is quite enough, and I leave it to you since we don't have much time to go through with other examples. Another important thing is that if you already secure or if you already get a position in Europe and want to know more about Europe or the country that you are traveling, you can, of course, get more relevant information here. Coming to Europe, if you click here, you see a lot of information. Living in Europe, working in Europe, country information specifically, and centers and contact persons, about the visa, about travel. If you have any other technical questions, there are so many people in these 694 EURAXESS centers that helps you to make ease of some of the things that you're actually looking for, right? Another important thing and very good thing that you can get from EURAXESS is search for partner. I think in chat box, I have seen some of you already ask how you establish, how you contact, get contact in Europe, in associated country. What my suggestion as a researcher is you better use existing networks, existing collaborations in Europe if you have already existing ones. But if you are a junior and if you don't have any contacts in Europe or an associated country to begin with, of course, this definitely helps you. There are so many individuals, so many institutions, they already provide their information and interested in communicating with anyone interested to reach out to them. So for that, my suggestion is just go down to the far bottom, okay, with this until you reach this blue highlighted area, where around this place you can find partnering, search for researchers, search for organizations. Let's click here, search for researcher, and see if we find some researchers maybe in Europe or in associated country. And of course, you need to log into EU login account. I have already existing one, so I will join that way. But for you, of course, as I already mentioned, you should have your own login information. Okay, perfect. Now I joined, and I should say proceed. Perfect. So this is my account in the EURAXESS. So there are how many researchers in our database? 16,917, close to 17,000. Okay, so let's try to filter. Researcher profile. What kind of researcher are you looking for? At what stage? First stage researcher, R1. Recognized researcher, R2. Established researcher, leading researcher, R4. Okay, so probably we may look at to R2 and R3, maybe R1, maybe 2 junior, R4 maybe a very busy professor or leading researcher. So let's focus, or let's screen for R2 and R3 for this example. For you, of course, it's up to you. I leave it to you. Country, which country may be interested to have a collaborator? Maybe let's say Belgium as a headquarter for European Commission, if you're looking for that. Denmark, this is my favorite because I did my PhD in Denmark. Let's see, German, that's enough. I think we have 3 countries in Europe. If you want collaboration with, you can specify the institution, you can specify the collaboration with the researcher, research fields, of course. There are 429 research fields. So we already tried, let's with the keywords, chemistry. But for you, you can choose whatever you want. Then let's filter from 17,000 to what number, let's see. Able to fine tune to 39 lists. This is, I think, a small number of lists. So I may go to each of these 37, and if I found them really interesting, I can click in some of this. Let's maybe click here. Just, yes, you see, he provide, maybe he or she provide her or his email account. So this is very easy, right? If you have, once you have the email account, you can initiate, you can start the communication. I'm from this country, I have this kind of expertise, I would like to collaborate with you and apply for this particular topic. You know what to write. So these are some information about this particular researcher. And he also mentioned his expertise, his skill, okay, a number of publications and his language ability, stuff like that, okay? So this is how you find and how you also get the contact information of a researcher who already announced their interest to collaborate, right? This way you can find researcher in Europe and of course beyond that. The other is for organization. Again, go at the bottom and go this quick search with a blue background, search for organizations. Okay, there are 26 and 387 institutions. So likewise, you can select, are you looking for higher education institutions? I think maybe I click here. If you are looking for businesses, in an academic sector, of course, you can also click, or maybe one or multiple of these items. And if you have any specific country choice, of course, you can click on that. Let's specifically, for our example, Belgium and Denmark, to fine tune our search. And okay, if you want to further fine tune, of course, you can click and select in this filter criteria. So let's apply. Higher institutions in Belgium and Denmark. There are already more than 700 institutions, so it's quite a large number, of course. I should further fine-tune my search. Let's focus on EU-funded grants, maybe these two, right? I hope this definitely reduce the search from 79 to 15, okay? Aarhus University, by chance, I know this university is in Denmark, Ghent University in Belgium. I think most of you know this. Let's see Ghent University. You see, the university already provide a contact person email. This is the contact person email of the university. And this is the website of the university, you see? So you can directly also communicate this university contact person for collaborative research, maybe Africa Initiative, for example, right? So this way, this EURAXESS website or platform can help you search, find potential collaborator as a researcher as well as organization in Europe and beyond, right? The other maybe, as already said, career development, you can find helpful videos, pre-recorded videos and presentations and some stories and also for organizations. Initiatives like Science for Refugees, EURA for Ukraine, Network, EURAXESS National Portal. These are EURAXESS Europe. So this is also very helpful to get the centers in Europe, in 43 European countries. You can, of course, find centers in EURAXESS worldwide, these 9 hubs, including EURAXESS Africa, and those other 8 hubs in this place, and contact address. They can definitely help you communicate, connect you with researchers and institutions in their country and region. Okay, so this way you can really make use of this EURAXESS portal, EURAXESS website for your potential collaboration with European and associated countries researcher. With this, I think we better stop. Maybe if you give me, still we have some time, so I can quickly go to EU funding intended portal. That is a place where you find calls, right? Call for proposals. That's the most important thing. Of course, Dr. Vincenzo was mentioning with some examples. But for me, I will show you in general how you fine-tune call for proposal, how you register your organization, how you also search for partners in particular call topics under Horizon Europe. So you write EU funding in tender portal. So like me, you may get the first option as the one that's actually looking for the right link. Perfect. Yes, this is the landing page. So as you can see it here, there are so many information, very valuable information for researchers. If you click here on funding section, you see call for proposals, participant register, partner search, EU programs, including Horizon Europe, Erasmus+, Intra-Africa Academic Mobility, and many EU programs for research and innovation. And there are also funding updates and Horizon for Ukraine. Here, procurement, here, project and results. You can find some fact sheets, some summaries of previously awarded projects, about news, about events, work as an expert. This is also very much fascinating me. 58 scholars from South Africa were serving as an expert in evaluating EU-funded projects, proposals, you see. This is really also something that you can consider. If you think you have the right expertise, you have the right experience, you can also work as an expert in evaluating proposals. And this is a very important section of the portal, guidance and documents. You find the guidance and manuals. For example, it tells you if you want to log in account, how you create a login account, EU login account, the detailed procedure, step-by-step procedure, you can find them here. How you submit, how you go through the application process, okay, go through the templates, everything. This section will definitely guide you. And you can also find reference documents. You can find information on how to participate, FAQ question and their answers, help desk and supports. Okay, this is very important. You know, there are maybe so many questions in mind, right? When you try to write a proposal, and maybe while you are also submitting, you may face a lot of technical difficulties. So this support desk could definitely help you in solving your questions or responding to your questions. SME, self-assessment tool, and some other videos. So with this, let's directly go to call for proposal under funding, call for proposal. Yes, if you really know exactly the quick ID or the name, the quick identifier of the call for proposal, you can paste it here. For example, from Dr. Vincenzo's presentation, you have seen those 25 call topics, right, that are flagged the Africa Initiative, Initiative 4. So if you know that, you can copy from his presentation and paste it here and get it. If you don't know it, of course, you can again filter, okay? This is also a very big website platform, so you should filter and get a small item of your search result. Let's go to program period. Of course, we are looking for 2021, 2027, the current program. There are more than 6,600 call for topics. You can imagine how big it is. So what's the program? I told you there are more than 40 EU programs under this website. So we focus only on Horizon Europe. Okay, even in Horizon Europe, there are 4,120 call topics. You can imagine how big it is. So it's not really easy. So you should systematically filter your search. So let's go here. These are the call destinations. So under this identifier, for example, there are 32 call topics. Under this one, 29. If you remember CL6, it is cluster 6, right? It's under cluster 6, but unfortunately, it's already from the previous work program, 2025. It's already passed. So I'm not interested in the closed call for proposals. So I have to first come here, submission status, closed ones. I have to untick this, right? Because there are more than 3,445 already closed call topics. I'm not interested in this. But of course, if you are interested to see more information, you can click. But for me, I don't like it. I don't want it. For the coming, 388. Open for submission, 287. Now we have really quite small list. Now let's come back to the call. Are you looking for cluster 1, that's health, or cluster 2, cluster 3, 4, 5, 6? For example, in cluster 6, we have this environment, bioeconomy, agriculture, natural resource. So you can click here. This is for the upcoming one because it says 2027. I may be interested only on 2026. By chance, let me click here. Cluster 3, 2026. Okay. So under this, we have only 21 call topics. And I need to make sure that from these 21, which one belongs to the Africa Initiative? 4. Okay, all of them are not under Africa Initiative. For us, Ninki was mentioning, there are thousands of calls in Horizon Europe. But who are flagged Africa Initiative for are only 25, that gives a highest success rate for African researchers and institutions. So we may consider the Africa Initiative for one that you get from Dr. Vincenzo's presentation. For now, let's click in one of this and see how it looks like. Of course, it's already presented. So you click on call topic and get general information and scroll down and try to digest, try to analyze very carefully, right? Before analyzing anything, you shouldn't start writing or communicating with your partners. Try to understand it very, very carefully. It's already provide you all the necessary information, the description, the expected outcomes, clearly put it here. 1, 2, 3, 4. So your project, your proposal should address all of this expected outcome, not part of it. The scope is also clearly mentioned here. So you should really carefully analyze, carefully digest this description before you start doing anything else, okay? Go and check also the budget And as Dr. Vincent was mentioning, there are already 61 persons and institutions who already expressed their interest to partner, to collaborate with this particular core topic. There are 61. Of course, if you are interested, you can also provide your expertise or your profile here, or your institution profile, so that others can also see you, be visible, and could also open another collaboration window, right? So I really suggest you to go through all this relevant information, online manual, the guideline, the eligibility, admissibility, IT support, whatever. So there are so many information here. So I just encourage you to go through and digest and understand what is really written there. I think with this, I should stop and see if there are questions to me or to Dr. Vincent regarding the Africa Initiative 4 and EURAXESS Africa support services. Thank you very much. Let me stop here. Yes, let's see if there are questions. Yes, Dr. Vincenzo already shared his presentation in the chat box. You can see that, you can download it. So I think most of you already know about EURAXESS, but I just present if there are some newcomers today. If no more specific questions to EURAXESS or to me, we can proceed to maybe the next presentation. Yes, we share all the presentations and the recorded videos. Maybe Vincenzo, you can co-moderate with me if you see any questions.
Yes, thank you, Fana. I'm going to share again the presentation in the chat. It was shared at 4:11 South Africa time. But for those who joined in the meantime, I'll share it again. I will also share again the link. This is for everybody's indeed attention. The link to the Horizon Europe Funding Attendance portal, where you will find the calls for proposals that are indeed from the Africa Initiative 4. It's 25 of them, plus the 2 from the Global Health EDCP3 Work Program 2026 that are still open, and the deadline for which is September. So indeed, these as Fana just importantly mentioned, these are the calls for proposals for which Africa-Europe cooperation is indeed valued the most, so to say, because the topics are of shared importance, and therefore, especially for those of you who are interested in these topics and are starting, indeed, joining a consortium to submit a proposal for these calls would help you stand the highest chance to, for having your proposal retained. I just reshared the link. So this is the link, and then once you get onto the page, you can get where you can go through the detail of each and every call, and I will share the presentation again.
Yes, thank you very much. I think some also asking us where they can find previous Africa Initiative 4 webinar recordings. I think you can visit EURAXESS Africa YouTube channel. Definitely you can find them there. Of course, in our news and events page, you can also find several previous workshops and webinars, physical and online events. Of course, I will also communicate maybe by tomorrow the news from this webinar, including the presentations and recorded video. Thank you very much. One people asking me if there is a for master scholarship or master career development opportunities. Unfortunately, so what we have for PhD in MSc, we have PhD and beyond that. But for master, if anyone, from EU member state, if they have any vacancies, of course, you can find them in EURAXESS. website. So you can look at EURAXESS. Instead of PhD position, you can click on master position and you can find, if any. But that's not actually the main aim of the MSc and ERC. Very good. Now with this, let me invite, we have Anita still. Anita. Are you with us, Anita? From the STI, I think I may took more time, but let's see if, oh yes, Anita, we can't hear you. Can you open your video maybe? Anita, Anita, can you hear me? I can't hear you, we can't hear you. Oh, yes, I can see you now, but I can't hear you, of course. So Ms. Anita Minisi is a Deputy Director for Strategic Partnership, South Africa's Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. Now the floor is yours. Over to you, Anita. Thank you for joining us, of course. We can't hear you. I think something wrong. I think she will join us maybe again. We can't hear you. We can't see you, Anita. But I can see you here. Yeah, she will rejoin us. Just a moment. Perfect. Not yet. I don't know what happened. We can't hear you, Anita. We can see you, but we can't hear you. So, I don't know what happened here. Let me make you co-host if that brings any change. Maybe can you maybe increase your volume, or I don't know. You are promoted to co-host. Can you try again? It's unfortunate. Maybe until we figure out this technical problem, is the testimonial with you or is joining from other computer? You can text me, I can't hear you. I don't see him in the chat box. Or text me his name, I can promote him to co-host. He can speak if he's from the different computer.
Yeah, yes, fine. We have Dr. McFadyen from Stellenbosch University. Dr. Sandra just wrote in the chat.
Okay, let me check if you can join him. Very good.
She wrote 5:29 your time.
Yes, I got him, and now I can promote him to panelist. Perfect. Okay, Sandra, you should now.
Hannah, I want to say that they have the permission, so they can just open the mic and give the question.
Okay.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, we can hear you.
Great.
Thank you for joining us, Prof. Now over to you. You
Thank
can
you.
share your ample experience with our participants from South Africa, and of course, there are also others from other countries.
Great, thank you very much. I'm just going to share my slides. Can everyone see that? Is it all right?
Can you make it on full screen? Perfect.
All right. Is it full screen? Yeah, should be.
Yes.
All right, so we can all see the full screen. Thanks so much for the invitation to present. So I was asked to just give you some background on the experiences we've had through our project called B Cubed. So it's one of the eHorizon projects with Stellenbosch University. I'm going to just run through a brief introduction to the B Cube project, what it's about, and talk about the work package approach, because I think that's key to running any of these Horizon Europe projects. Look at some of the outputs that we've presented as solutions and activities. And then from my experience, specifically give you some advice on proposal preparation, consortium development, project participation, and some of the challenges that we faced while working through Horizon Europe's funding. And then just end off with some take-home messages. I know that we're running a little bit late, so I'm going to skip quite quickly through many of the slides, especially from the introduction of the project. But here's the link to the website. It's called the B Cube Project. And it's a consortium agreement between 9 different countries and 12 different institutes. Stellenbosch University and SAMBI, the South African National Biodiversity Institute, are the South African partners. And our host is at the Mesa Botanical Gardens in Belgium. And the B Cubed is built on this global biodiversity crisis and the acknowledgement that we need rapid and reliable and repeatable ways of monitoring biodiversity to be able to quantify losses and measure trends. And through this, we've found opportunities from local to global levels that are within relevant timescales that we can improve the integration of these data, and specifically with biodiversity, using tools like data cubes. And that's where the B Cubed comes from in this scenario. So it focuses on standardizing access to biodiversity by employing methods that can translate across policy as well as science. And as I said, it comes from this global crisis and the idea that biodiversity is the foundation of ecosystem health. But if we don't know how to measure it and we don't know what the losses are, how are we supposed to quantify any change? And the key reasons for the losses of this biodiversity is often related to habitat, climate change, and that monitoring at different scales is really important to understanding how these things can change. So we need to respond to this global crisis, but in so doing, we need to standardize our ways of monitoring globally. And that's where, as I mentioned, the cube comes in. So just quickly to give you an idea of what that means, because it sounds quite abstract. If you're working in an area and you have different sites that you're measuring and monitoring biodiversity, You could have a number of different species that are scattered across those sites, and you could repeat that every year. And in that way, you can get a cube of data. Similarly, what you could do is you have the same setup of sites and species, but those sites have a specific array of environmental data that's connected to it. And you can take it a step further, and each of those species could have a number of traits that are connected to it. So when we talk about a cube, it's not necessarily just 3D, it can be multidimensional. And through the Horizon project that we were awarded and we're working with on these with our collaborators, we've approached this in a goal-orientated and it's driven by work package approach. So it's set up in different work packages, and specifically I'm involved mostly with the modeling current and future scenarios. Colleagues of mine are also looking at implementing case studies. And from that, we have a number of solutions and activities that have been set up. I skipped quite quickly over the work package slide, but I think that's one of the key differences I found with working with the Horizon Europe is that it's structured in such a nice way that it is goal orientated and results driven. So each of the work packages have specific milestones and deliverables that you have to work through, and that all leads to predefined solutions and activities related to it. So in this project, we're trying specifically to align a lot of the work with policy. That's global policy, not just across Europe, but also in South Africa. That's why we have partners like the National Biodiversity Institute. And I think something that's very key here that I thought was very useful is these automated workflows that one is focusing on. And using that, allows us to actually share our experiences working through this project with anybody. The way that it's set up is that you can go online and you can look at any of these workflows and you can apply it to your own scenario. So small reserve in KwaZulu-Natal, you could go onto the website, just substitute out the data that we've used for a global example for some local example that you have for your area of interest. And I think through that, capacity building is much larger than just the people who are involved directly with the project. And that's what I really liked about it. As I said, I'm just going to skip through a lot of this. I'll give you the website at the end, but these are the different data products that we've produced, as well as different indicators that we are using to implement into policy. I'm involved primarily with this dissimilarity and basability, but we're also looking a lot at alien taxa. As I promised, here is the QR codes. You can have a look at some of the different tutorials that we've got on downloading species occurrence cubes, which is one of the products, as well as many different tutorials on different topics that you can choose from. Just skip through that. Yeah, it's because it's based on biodiversity monitoring, we've also got indicators that are linked to it. And these indicators are developed using a number of different packages that we've also built. So as one of the outcomes of the BQ program, we've created what we call the B3 verse. And within that, if you go into GitHub and you look for the B3 verse, we've coupled together all of the different packages that we've actually built so far through the BQ program. And I think you'll see there that we're a very active group and a lot of things are happening. As I mentioned, the policy alignment is really important, and I think the Horizon Europe call actually asked for that, which I think is really important, because a lot of the studies, if they're done in Europe or in South Africa, they don't get transferred through to policy, where actual decisions get made and things can be changed in terms of biodiversity protection. Capacity building, as I said to you, it's not only about building capacity for the partners, but I think in our case, we thought it really important to try and extend that capacity building over a larger area. So we've provided a website with all these links, and you can go through different training tools and tutorials that will help you understand the biodiversity issues we have. Another link just to these guides and tutorials, the different types that we have. There's also training, so in partnerships with other institutes, for example, National Institute for Theoretical and Computational Sciences, we present every year a mini school. So I haven't released the dates yet for this year, but every year we present this mini school on data cubes. At the moment, we're actually running a training session. It's a hands-on training session free to anybody. So I might as well use this platform to advertise. So if anyone online wants to attend any of these, there's a program online. You can check and just register, and it's a hands-on session, which is another way of building capacity. Also got a lot of joint activities, case studies, as I've mentioned. And I think maybe this is what's most important. From our perspective and from our experience, when it comes to your proposal preparation as well as your consortium development, the key is existing research networks. So young people in the audience now, start building your networks now already, because the people you meet at the conferences that you go to now are the people that you're going to work with in future. So you don't have to go and aim for the biggest man in the room, biggest name in the conference. Go and talk to your colleagues, talk to people that are the same age as you, because you're going to grow up together and you're going to develop these research networks. And I think that's the real key to lasting partnerships, is something that you developed from a friendship level. It sounds quite simple, but it's true. You work better with people that you like. So start developing those relationships early. And when you're setting up the proposal, be engaged and be responsive. Don't let the proposal run away with you. Be part of it and work together with the consortium. And that means being active. Don't be passive. You need to speak up, and you need to actually be part of the project. Don't just be dragged along. And that's the same with the consortium development. The same part there is build on the existing collaborations that you have and bring in South African expertise. I mean, you might be part of the project, but you might have some collaborator in South Africa that can join. Invite them and see if you can bring more South African expertise into this international consortium. Yeah, that's maybe the last thing I just want to say is just be visible and be proactive. You know, put yourself out there, not only to learn but to teach. And through that, there's a number of benefits that come from these large collaborations. You know, scientific inputs, papers, technical developments, and you have an opportunity to not just be peripheral partners, but to actually be collaborators in bigger projects by working with people. So yes, maybe just the challenges. Probably for me, the biggest challenge was the budget. So, I mean, that's a silly thing, but I think from the very beginning, you need to get the right people and work with the right people. And I think Dr. Vincenzo was saying that the coordinator role is not necessarily the science role. Trust me, no one wants to do that admin. So if you've got a partner that's able to guide you through that, you can focus on the science if that's the case. But you need the right people, and you need to also get to grips with the different financial complexities and exchange rates. I mean, for our project, we were given the money at a different exchange rate from when we spent the money. So now we're trying to work out how do we deal with these exchange rates. It's a simple thing, but it's something I think one should think about when you start getting going. And just ask questions and be engaged. And I think, yeah, the reasons why we should do these projects are self-explanatory. It's an opportunity to be part of these large international research networks, and you have access to new collaborations and knowledge exchange, and there's increased visibility for South African researchers and institutes, I think, so that you can build these stronger platforms for future projects and longer-term partnerships. And yes, build networks, be visible, engage early, and back South African expertise in international consortium. I think that's my take-home message. And thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sandra, for joining us in a short period of time with a very short notice. But it is very helpful, very insightful presentation. Thank you for sharing the proposal preparation, the consortium development, and also, frankly, sharing the challenges you also faced during this engagement in Horizon Europe. This is very helpful. Thank you very much, Dr. Sandra. Okay, I can see now Dr. Laurent Boucheroux. I think he's in Brussels this time, but he's of course based in Addis Ababa. He's a Minister Counselor for Science, Technology and Innovation at the delegation of the European Union to the Africa Union. So maybe before his closing remarks, let's again check if Miss Anita fixes this technical issue. Anita, can we try again if you can speak? And
Hi, can you hear me now?
excellent. Now we can hear you. Over to you,
Yeah.
Anita. Thank you.
Okay, please let me know once you can see my screen. Can you see my screen?
Yes, perfect. Now it's a full screen, we can see it. Perfect.
All right, thank you. As introduced, my name is Anita Mnisi from the DSTI Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. I'm the Deputy Director under the Strategic Partnerships Directorate, which looks at the SAEU relations in science, technology and innovation. And we are the directorate that supports South African researchers and the NSI at large in their participation in Horizon Europe programs and other EU-funded opportunities. I'm just going to go through the slides considering the time. So this is the STI policy landscape that we work under in terms of international cooperation. We've got the white paper on science, technology and innovation, which was initially the 1996 white paper, which was amended in 2019. We've got the science and technology innovation decadal plan, which takes a whole of government approach towards supporting science and innovation for society. And then we've got Agenda 2063, which we also take some few points from there. And then there's also the MTDP, which came as a part of the 7th administration. So these slides look at the SAEU STI cooperation, starting from when the Science and Technology Agreement was signed back in 1996. And then we also have, which has facilitated the participation of South African NSI into the framework program. We also have the Trade Development Cooperation Agreement of 1999. We also have political, social, and economic and cultural relations with the EU. All these are monitored through the SAEU summit at a national scale, but at the Science and Technology Cooperation scale, they are monitored through the Joint Science Technology Cooperation Committee, which is the JSTC. I've already spoken through the slide, so I'm just going to go to the programs. So under Horizon Europe, the programs that we support as co-funds as co-funded, meaning that co-funded through the department. They also follow the same approach in that South African researcher will have to form part of a consortium with European partners and then apply to the calls, and then the South African partner will then be funded through the South African Department of Science, Technology and Innovation. So we have the EURAXESS, which looks at research and innovation on materials and battery technologies. The call for this was launched on the 4th of March. It's currently open for pre-proposals. So all the programs, they follow a two-stage proposal process. When it opens for the first time, interested applicants are invited to apply to submit a pre-proposal, and then should they get invited to submit a full proposal, then that will be a second stage. So the first stage is currently open and will close on the 12th of May 2026. The areas of focus are there as materials for energy storage and distribution, materials for energy conversion, innovative surfaces, coatings and interfaces, material addressing environmental challenges, next generation materials for electronics. So what we normally have as the department as part of the guidelines or eligibility criteria, we advise interested applicants to submit a summary or an outline of what they intend to submit to the department, just so we can see the alignment with national priorities. Below it just mentions how many funding agencies participate under the EURAXESS partnership. We've got EURAMIN. Currently, there are no calls launched under the EURAMIN partnership because it is beyond the EURAMIN partnership now. We are looking at it as the partnership for raw materials, which started in 2025. So calls, in terms of the calls, it will be communicated in due time, but currently there are no calls under EURAMIN, as we're still busy with the transition from EURAMIN to the new partnership on raw materials. And then we've got Biodiversa, which looks at biodiversity. Calls under this program are normally launched around September, and already for the 2026-27 joint call, the area for the call thematic area has already been mapped out as future sustainable socio-ecological systems, trajectories of change, and then in short, by the future. And then in terms of the indicative timeline, it will be launched in September 2026, and then with the deadline for pre-proposals being November 2026. Last year, in as much as we are part of the partnerships, there are certain calls depending on the topic that you will find that the department will decide not to participate in that call. I think that was the case in terms of the call 2025, where we did not participate in the call, but that is also because of other administrative processes with previous calls that we're still sorting out. And then we have the Water for All partnership. So this used to be implemented together with the Water Research Commission, and together with them we have supported more than 12 projects involving 15 institutions. Currently we've got one project under the Water for Circular Economy call, which was launched in 2024. For the 2025 call, which focused on water and health, we're still undergoing evaluation, as the deadline for full proposals was last month. And then this is the support that the department provides through ESASTAP. So ESASTAP is a platform. We've got a website which has been recently revamped. So all the SAEU or EU opportunities, you will find them on the ESASTAP website. Even the programs that I've just presented, you'll find them on the ESASTAP website. So whenever there's a new call, we'll also put it there. So it's advisable that to actually subscribe to the ESASTAP website, so that whenever there's a new call or even webinars, you will get the communication through the website. The department also provides financial support through the cooperation through science and technology. I'll speak on that on the next slide. We have the National Contact Points Network, which have been appointed in different thematic areas you would have seen under Pillar 2. So most of the areas under Pillar 2, we do have a national contact point for some of the areas. And then you can also find their contact details on the ESASTAP website should you need to reach out to any of them. So they provide assistance in terms of the calls and whatever available opportunities you might need information on, or whatever support that you might need. We also have the DSTI Brussels office, which is currently occupied by Ms. Mabuza. She does assist the South African NSI with identifying opportunities and also just responding to other questions that they might have. I'm very sure that some of the colleagues on the call would have interacted with her. So this is the slide that speaks on the financial support that the department provides, particularly the cooperation on science and technology. So you have to go through the COST website, and then you can do a quick search in terms of the thematic area that you are interested in, and then you can reach out to the COST Action Chair, informing them about your interest to participate in the call. You can also, some of the South African researchers can also be appointed as observers, excuse me, but that requires a process of reaching out to the department and also informing us about your interest in becoming an observer, and then we'll facilitate that process. So in terms of participating in the activities, once you have reached out and spoken to the research chair, then you have been onboarded to be part of the action, then they will inform you and you'll be able to see whenever they're having their meetings or activities. And then now when the activities, that's when you'll get an invitation letter from the COST chair to be part of that particular meeting. And then that's when you'll write to the department and then informing them that you have been invited for this course activity, and then informing us where it will be, when it will be, and then you'll have to go through the application process for us to support you financially to participate in that particular action. So there's just a list of email addresses below that you can address queries to. In terms of the general queries, in terms of the SAEU opportunities, you can reach out to the contact email there for ISASTAP. And then in terms of cost, still same, but with in copy with myself, and Ms. Nkuba was also in the call. So in terms of the timeline for the application processes, it requires at least 6 weeks or more. So we encourage applicants to submit their documents early to the DSTI for us to go through them and then provide feedback on time. So I've already mentioned where the applications can be submitted, and that's basically it in terms of the support that the department provides. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Anita, for valuable information. I hope the participants found it very interesting. And thank you also for mentioning the support mechanisms through the STI and ISASTAP for researchers and institutions in South Africa. So I hope our participants should benefit, should make use of this opportunity. Thank you again for your nice presentation. I think we heard from South Africa side. Now I think it's also time to close it. So maybe before I give it again the chance to Dr. Lauren, maybe Dr. Vincenzo, if you have just a couple of final words, because I don't see Edu here. So I will give over to you, Dr. Vincenzo, for final
Thank you
words.
very much, Fana. I just want to thank everybody. Just to say that indeed, as I see, as I realize that Udi Mabuza, the senior science and innovation representative of the DSTI here in Brussels, is not available. Perhaps from the DSTI, it could be Anita also giving some ending remarks. Sorry, Anita, for calling you on the spot. And then I will happily pass the floor to my colleague Laurent here in Brussels.
Well, I can start, Anita, so you have time to think about what you're going to say. Since you are just putting on the spot. On my side, I would like to thank the organizers, so the colleagues from the STI, my colleague Vincenzo and Professor Fana. Thank the speakers. The testimonial, Sandra was very brilliant in explaining from her experience the best strategy on how to participate, how to nurture a network of scientists working with you in your country, in the continent, and internationally, that you can mobilize when there is a call for proposal, and you can try to be part of a successful proposal. So I think at that time, with a bit of a time and It has been a lot of information. Again, as you've heard, there is a lot of funding available. It's a competition, so you need to be part of good proposals, good networks to have the best chances to be selected. If it doesn't work, there will be other chances. So don't be discouraged if you fail. We are not deciding who are the winners from the commission or from but it's the peers who are reviewing proposal, and we also encourage you to apply to be an evaluator. This is a very good experience to learn how the system works and how to prepare a good proposal. And you have the NCP system in South Africa, which is extremely efficient, and you can ask them to help, ask at your universities, your colleagues, support as well, and there will be more possibilities. And as Anita explained, we're celebrating this year 30 years of the EU South Africa S&T cooperation, and we will have some celebration later in the year. So the story continues. We are not only having this call, there will be lots of funding opportunities to strengthen further the cooperation between Europe and South Africa. So thank you to everybody. And now back to Anita. We don't see you, Anita, but hopefully we'll hear you say the final words. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Vincenzo. Anita, it's over to you.
Thank you so much. I'm having a bit of a challenge with my connection, so I hope colleagues can still hear me.
Yes, yes.
Yes, just to extend my gratitude to the organizers of the session from the EURAXESS platform, to our colleagues from the EUD and DG RTD. The department remains committed to supporting the participation of South African national system of innovation in EU programs, and just to encourage everyone on the call to subscribe to the ISASTAP website, because that is where the information on the EU funding opportunities and participation mechanisms is advertised. And also to say that we work very close with the research offices, and we're available to do targeted information sessions, because we also do roadshows where we promote some of the calls when they're open. So we are very much available and ready to engage with colleagues, just to urge that they can go through the presentations, and whatever question that may arise from there, they can reach out through the ISASTAP platform or through the contact details that have been provided. But otherwise, thank you so much for organizing this session, and thank you so much to the South African NSI for availing themselves and for also just engaging throughout the session.
Yeah, thank you very much, Anita, for wonderful closing remarks, even though you're not told to prepare for this. So thank you really on behalf of EURAXESS Africa. We also would like to thank organizers from European Commission, particularly Dr. Vincenzo Lorusso, and also colleagues from DSTI in South Africa, and of course Dr. Sandra and Dr. Laurent Bochoru for joining us in this webinar. We recorded, I think, over several hundreds of participants. At some point, it's also almost exceeded 400, so which is really very interesting, a very impressive turnout. We are really very happy, and we are at your disposal. If you have any questions, any comments, you can reach out to africa@euraxess.net, so that myself, my colleague Ahmed, and Dr. Mai also see it and respond as soon as possible. Give it a try. Don't fail before applying. So we wish you a good luck, and I hope we'll again meet in other thematic webinars ahead of us. Thank you very much. I think with this, the webinar is closed. Thank you very much.